Hey everyone, and welcome to this review of the traditional manga tarot. The artwork is by Shu Ting, which I know, I didn't even come close to getting that right. I apologize. This is from Lo Scarabeo and typical tuck box, but I don't know if this was a recent design upgrade, but I noticed that this tuck box does not have the inner lip on the bottom flap here, which I think is a better design because that inner lip can damage your cards if you're trying to put the deck back in the box and it's kind of a tight fit. So for those of you who do keep your tuck boxes and store your decks in your tuck boxes, then there's less likely for damage with a design like this. So standard little white book, contains different languages: English, Italian, Spanish, French, and Portuguese. And for the English section, you only get about 19 pages. Very brief and broad introduction and some general tips on, reading the tarot. And then in terms of the major and minor arcana, here's just a sample of what you would get. So pretty bare bones, in my opinion. Needless to say, I did not find this very useful. Now onto the deck. So here's the title card, and that is the Queen of Cups that you see. In terms of the card stock, I think it's great. I happen to like Lo Scarabeo cardstock as well as Llewellyn. It's thin and, bendy. I can riffle, shuffle, and bridge without a problem. And with this deck, I can actually just cut the deck in half and riffle shuffle the whole deck, which I can't do for several of my other decks. I have to separate them into smaller batches and riffle shuffle that way. But for this deck, it's been a great experience shuffle wise. And this size, it's slightly shorter and narrower than a standard tarot deck, standard tarot card size. So just for comparison, let me just grab. So as you can see, a little shorter and narrower, which I am all about that. I have no complaints there. It helps my small hands. Here are the backs. It is a little glossy. I don't mind all that much. I do not strongly love this design. I do not strongly dislike the design. When I first saw it, I did wonder if it actually went with the aesthetic of the art. But after working with the deck and paying closer attention to the images, you do see, like for example here, you do see that there are hints of a very similar kind of damask. I think that's how you pronounce it, a damask pattern here. So you do get instances of that. So in that way, I guess the backs are fine. Maybe they could have gone with a different color scheme. It seems rather dark. But the images themselves are borderless with a simple title on the bottom, nice and clean. And I think that this is pretty much out of the gate for anybody who is familiar with RWS. This is going to be an easy reader because this deck does lend to the original images. So I had no trouble with this deck. I do like this style of manga. And I'll show you some of my favorite cards. This might be one of my favorite death cards, if not my favorite. It is, it's kind of sweet, you know, you have, it's almost like you're looking at, I mean, the animals are dead, and yet there is this interaction, as if, you know, we're seeing maybe a necromancer. So I really like that. And then we have the Emperor, or I'm sorry, the Empress, who is not preggers, which nothing against that, but sometimes it's nice to see there's something different. Temperance. So just really beautiful art. Queen of Wands, which I love because of the black cat, I'm not gonna lie. Strength, it's very sweet. And Judgment. The World. I do miss the Ouroboros of the World, but I do think this is beautiful, so I'm not mad at it. And I do love this Four of Swords. You do have the traditional knight in armor, and you do have the tomb or coffin, but because of the position, you don't get a sense of death, but you do get that, that feeling of respite and peace. And for a majority of the cards in the traditional RWS that typically don't contain human figures, this deck has incorporated human figures into those images. So you have the moon here, the Eight of Wands, all of the aces have a figure. Ace of Pentacles, and then Ace of Wands, which I like. And then, let's see here, the Wheel. And Four of Cups, where normally you just see an outstretched hand, but here you have an entire figure there. I think all of these images are beautiful. The only image that I was just lukewarm about is the Chariot. And the reason I say that is because every time I see these two beasts, which I'm assuming are lions, I keep thinking of ROUS from The Princess Bride. Rodents of unusual size, which I don't think the artist was going for here. And the only complaint I have with this deck is that some of the images were a little hard for me on the eyes because there's a lot of detail in the art. And then when you add kind of a warmer color scheme on top of that, I just had a difficult time making things out. So as an example, you have the Star card right here, and you can see there's just a layering of details on top of it being very warm in terms of the hues of the colors. And so you have these stars that are laid over the figure, and they're a little transparent so you can see through them. And it was just hard for me to make things out. So for instance, like it took me a while to see that, oh, she is in fact holding a jug right there in her other hand. And then, you know, just as another example, you know, I, in general, of course, I know what I'm seeing, and yet just to pick out the details of the horse, it took me, you know, a little longer than I would have liked. And I don't even know that I've still figured out exactly what I'm looking at, but you know, those are just like little details, and it's not a deal breaker by any means. You just have to study the deck a little more. If you are, if you feel that your eyesight isn't super sharp, then these images might feel a little too busy for you. But if you enjoy the manga art style, if you like that it's inspired by traditional imagery, then this might be a deck you'd want to consider checking out. So I hope that you found this helpful. I would love to hear your thoughts on the deck, so please do drop a comment below. And until the next time, be well and take care.